Good morning, superhumans. I think that was totally hands-free and it worked. So audio is working, although my level is a bit loud. I'll turn that down a little bit. Oh, I need to whisper because Chris has a baby asleep. I acknowledge the traditional owners of this land. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and to Aboriginal elders and peoples from other communities who may be taking part in this live stream today. So I think it worked. Yes. The problem with the script was that I've got a series of steps in it. One of the steps is to do a transition from the intro video, which is on one HDMI input, to the front camera on a different input. And because it doesn't just cut immediately, it does like a gradual transition, a blend or whatever. That takes a certain amount of time, and my script wasn't allowing enough time for it, so it was then failing to execute the steps after that. But it worked this time. So that's really cool. It means that there's one button I press and it does all the intro start. It takes the live stream on air, and after the intro has run, it switches to me and it turns on my microphone, which is perfect. And there's one button to end it as well. Oh, so now I can relax. Hang on, no, I can't relax. I'm live. I feel like I need to go and have a little nap now. So, I have zero plan for today's live stream, which is just the way we like it. So Steve can give us some guidance, tell us what we want to do. He's sitting over my shoulder again. I really honestly have no idea where to start. There are probably a few things I could talk about, but I don't know what in particular. Now, one thing, yes. So I was just thinking about talking about changes to the plans for the Superlab floor plan layout. Maybe that's as good a place to start as any. Let's, and hang on, I just woke up my voice assistant unexpectedly. Dodgy says different front camera.
I'm
no.
not sure.
No, I will hit the mute on that. Oh, thanks, some call it fun. Yeah, so I've been talking to Lachlan about the floor arrangement, and I may have just, it's quite likely that the zoom has been adjusted on this camera. That's all it would be. So let's have a look at, if I switch to this now, it's going to reveal all the tabs I have open in this particular browser window. Let's go for this one. So ignore all the tabs across the top and all my Gmail accounts and all the Slacks that I'm part of. All right. Anyway, this is, yeah, so I'll show you what I think this is probably close to the most recent that most people will have seen. And it's got, so the thing that has really bugged me about the layout of the floor plan for this, I've got to figure out where I am with the camera because it's cropped right in. The thing that's really bugged me is this area right here. Oh, and also, one of the comments on that video that I did about the demolishing the wall in the factory was someone said, for those who, oh yes, I did just dox the location, Michael, it's not going to be secret for long, so I figure I don't bother trying to conceal it now. I had a comment, someone saying, for people that don't watch my live streams, what's the background to the Superlab, what is it? So sometime I will probably do a video about that. But what it made me realize is that there are probably a couple of major groups of people, those who watch the live streams and those who don't. So you're in the special group, which means that you know what's going on a lot more than people, because there are a lot of people who watch the the edited real videos, and they never ever watch live streams, either live or played back. They just don't watch them. And because this is exclusively where I've been talking about the whole Superlab concept, a lot of people who watched that last video about the factory tour, for them it came totally out of the blue. They had no context, they had no idea what it was about. So I need to do a video that explains the whole Superlab thing, giving a little bit of a wrap up of the whole idea and what I'm trying to achieve with this. So yeah, there are a number of walls here that are pretty well fixed. This is a block wall dividing the two factories. This and this are all block walls. This is the front wall of the building. This wall down the right is the external wall of the building. This wall doesn't exist, it's going to have to be put in. This one will have to be put in, and this. And the thing is, this area right here around this double door arrangement, it is really awkward and ugly and difficult, and the problem of getting trolleys through this area here. And I realize that I've kind of been working with the wrong mindset, because what I've been doing is trying to figure out the minimum width of this room for the pick and place machines. So if we've got a row of pick and place machines down the middle here, and they've got feeders hanging out the sides, both sides, then there is a certain width that you need to fit those in. And I worked that out. I don't remember the number, but you know, I've looked at the machines, I've hung a feeder on it, and measured and just checked how wide they are. So I've got to allow for that, plus walk space down both sides, plus benches on both sides of the wall, or benches on one side and shelves on the other, whichever way. And so I suppose I have this mindset. This is probably a more general thing. It's not, it's kind of like the way I think. This is revealing part of my psychology, which is that I try to minimize everything. And I don't necessarily mean in terms of trying to make things as small as possible. That's kind of how this is manifesting itself. But I'm trying to think of a way to explain this that is not going to sound totally self-serving, or that is going to sound like I'm doing like an oh poor me sort of situation. But I suppose the way I have thought about things comes from a place of not having excess of anything. So using the minimum. It comes down to things like when you use up a peanut butter jar, making sure that you get every single last piece out of it, so that the jar is essentially like clean by the time it's empty, because you don't want to waste anything that's in it. Or if there is okay, another good example. A while ago, I was offered a whole lot of devices that had been, they were from like an IoT project. They were sensors that had been put out in the field. They had LiPo batteries in them, and there were a few hundred of them. They were in little sealed enclosures, and originally they'd had a circuit board inside them with, I think it was LoRa or something, I don't know exactly. The boards had been taken out, and they were going to be thrown out, and I ended up grabbing them so that I could go through them and extract the switches, the connectors, and the LiPo batteries. Now, these had been sitting in storage for a couple of years, and the batteries were pretty much all dead, and I ended up spending ages, like many hours, going through testing, disassembling them all, pulling all the batteries out, testing every single one, and putting each one on a charger and trying to do a recovery on it so that I could see if it would be recoverable. And in the end, I think I got 20 like really small LiPo batteries out of it. There is no way that it was worth the effort involved. I'm not explaining this very well. Maybe that wasn't such a good example. I suppose, just as a more general thing, the way I think is trying to avoid spending money. it's trying to take the DIY solution instead of, the DIY solution might take me 10 hours when I could spend $100 and just go and buy something that solves the problem immediately. So to some extent, it's a false economy because my time is better spent doing other things. This line of thought can open up a whole other topic of conversation, because I'm not necessarily saying this is bad. I'm just saying that this is the way my brain works. And so the result is that sort of way of thinking has made me very DIY conscious, and I try to do things myself, which then opens up opportunities for learning and gaining new skills, because I want to try doing things. I don't want to just buy the end result. But that partly comes from not having the money to just buy the end result. So it's this is where I don't want to be talking about this, because my personal circumstances are so good compared to the vast majority of people in the world. I am so lucky. Like I'm not going to be hungry tonight. I've got somewhere to sleep tonight, all of that sort of stuff. So I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about being poor or anything like that. On a global scale, I'm like in the top 1% or whatever. But it's just that when I'm thinking about things, I always think about the minimum. Like, how can I do this with the smallest amount of resources? Or how can I do this in the most economical way? And it's something that I've become aware of about the way I think. The point of all of this is that it shows up in the way I did this floor plan. It is the way the process worked in my head was, how wide are the machines? That is a finite fixed point. That's a starting point. Then what is the minimum amount of space on each side that I can have to walk between them? And then beyond that space, what is the minimum bench width? So I can try to make the whole thing as narrow as possible and not use up as much space, not use up any more space than it needs to. And so the result is, and the other thing you have to consider is with feeders into a pick and place machine, you've got a row of feeders all in parallel, and they have to be inserted and removed. So you don't just have the width of the machine when the feeder is in place. You have to allow for undocking a feeder and sliding it out of its position, and then beside the feeder, like through the feeders that it's connected, that are adjacent to it. And so you need extra width beyond the back of the feeder to slide one out and then take it away for loading parts or whatever. And so with this layout, what I was allowing for was enough width that you can walk between the machines, and you could get a feeder and slide it out, but once that feeder was slid out, you would not actually have room to walk past behind it. It would be a case of sliding the feeder out in front of you, turning it or turning yourself and walking along. Jordan said, this sounds like a scarcity mindset. Yes, exactly. That is the summary. There is the scarcity mindset and the abundance mindset. And I definitely have a scarcity mindset. I work on the basis that I'm about to run out of everything. Everything is finite and limited, and I've just got to do what I can with what I have. The abundance mindset is that everything is infinite, and you can have as much of whatever you like. So, and I suppose space is something that has really imprinted itself on my head as a scarcity, because I've been very jammed in where I am, and I've got accustomed to that, and accustomed to the whole idea of make everything take the smallest amount of space possible, and stacking things and jamming stuff in. And you can see that behind me. And where was I going? That's right. So the feeders. So I was working on the basis of, let's start with the minimum and work out how wide this room needs to be. And the other way of looking at it is, how wide could this room be? And to not be thinking about it from the point of view of the absolute minimum that is required to get the job done, but more, what is the amount that would be nice, that would be comfortable, that would allow you to walk down like between the machines without worrying that you're going to be bashing into the back of the feeders? Or what if there are two people walking past each other in opposite directions down the aisle here between the bench and the machine? The way I had provisioned it, like the way this layout is provisioned, it would be tight. If you had one person walking down and one person walking up, and you were passing the machines with the feeders sticking out the back, then you'd kind of turn sideways and walk past each other. Sion made a point about rotating the line. I'm going to, that is a point I'm going to talk about as well, because I've done multiple versions of this with the line in both directions, and that is actually a kind of, in terms of smell, I don't think that should be a problem. I'll get back to this, Sion. That is an important point, and that is something that I've been going backwards and forwards on, because this needs to be a U-shaped arrangement. And the question is, where do the boards end up, etc. So let's, I'll get back to my previous train of thought, which was, why make this the absolute minimum that can just get by, particularly considering the effort involved in building this room? If I'm going to be building walls here and building a roof, and then say a year from now or 2 years from now, I discover that, hey, I need another machine in here, or I need a different machine that's going to be wider, or say I want to put in a board washer and I discover that a board washer is deeper than the space that I have available on the bench, so it's going to end up sticking out. Like, where is that going to go? And then I'd have to make really major changes to the design and move walls, and it would be, essentially it'd be almost building it again if you've got to change any of these boundaries. So, and there was another point that Lachlan made when I was talking to him last weekend, I think, or during the week. So, he said something like, oh, this is going to be a like a showpiece, and that comes down to this front area as well, because I had actually consciously set out with this in mind, what I want with this, and the reason that there are, I'll go into the 3D view here, the reason that I put windows in this wall, so you can see some windows in here, is so that if people come in and like people come in for a meeting and they're sitting around, they can look through the window and see the clean room with all the pick and place machines, and it'll look really fancy. And I've mentioned before that I did this at IVT, at my software company, when we had our own servers physically located at our office in Croydon. What I did was build the server room. So we actually physically built the server room. I built all of the framing, we did all the plastering, etc. So I totally fitted that out. And what I did was I deliberately put really big windows all the way along the front of it on the wall just near the entrance. So when anyone came to visit the office, they would come up the stairs, walk into the entrance area, and there would be a whole wall of windows, so you could look in and see all of the server racks and you'd see all the Ethernet cabling and the blinking lights. And without exception, every single person that came to visit would stand there at the window and gape for a while, just because blinking lights are really cool. So it's part of putting on a show. It's making an impression when people can see it. And so that is the reason. So I've got these windows here, and then the black thing is just above it, monitors. So the idea is to have, oops, I just lost the screen. It's going to come back in a second, I hope. Yes, there is something weird going on with my, with the way I'm running this through an HDMI splitter. let's get back to this view. Oh, come on, I'm gonna have to close that. Do not save. I'm running this through an HDMI splitter so that I can see the screen and it goes into the ATEM as well. And it's what's going on with that? Don't know. Yeah, and so then a row of monitors above the window as well, which will be showing things like status of the machines and statistics, and maybe live video feeds from cameras in the machines and that sort of stuff. So you can look through the window and see all the stuff that's going on. But so that whole concept was already well in my head, and when Lachlan last weekend, ended up talking to, I think there was like a committee meeting or something at the Connected Community Hackerspace in Hawthorne, and he went along to that and he was talking to a few people about what I'm doing with Superlab, and someone, he can't remember who, but someone, might have been John Spencer or someone like that who was at that meeting, suggested making floor-to-ceiling windows here. So basically just putting in really big sheets of glass, and so that when you walk in, it really does make an impression. It's not just windows that you're peering through, but it's like a big wall. And that was part of the thinking that made me reconsider the whole idea about how big this room should be, and to be conscious of the fact that I was very much thinking in this scarcity mindset of make it just big enough and no bigger, not allowing for any future changes or anything like that, or for comfort, or yeah. So anyway, this is a revised version based on some things we've been talking about. Oh yeah, Dodgy put this very well. Oh, Pancake Legend, was that you who suggested it? If it was you, thank you very much. So yeah, Dodgy said what they fail to realize. So this is in the context of, all right, I'm just going to read a couple of Dodgy's comments. Time is finite. Some people treat every moment they are not working as lost revenue. That time is literally money. Some people are more driven by money than others. What they fail to realize is that yes, it would be more economical to work extra hours and buy something, but that fails to take into account that you don't then get the life experience of DIY. Yes. So that's why when I was saying earlier that this is kind of my mindset, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It is just a thing. It is the way my brain works, and it is what has led me to like this whole home automation thing. Way back when I was interested in this sort of thing a long time ago, I could, in fact I did, buy some X10 devices. This shows how long ago it was. Some X10 power line devices, and plug them in and be able to turn some things on and off, and that would be the end of it. But instead, I went down the rabbit hole and learned how to build my own devices, and learned all of the stuff that I have learned in relation to home automation is because I have gone down the path of spending more of my personal time building things than the value of that time if I'd just gone out and bought stuff. So overall, it was not the logical financial decision. I would have been better off spending my time working to make money and then using that money to just buy devices. But then I wouldn't know the things that I know now, and I regret nothing. It's, yeah. So it is a balance. You have to decide, where am I going to buy a solution and where am I going to learn about it and build it myself. And I really love the process of learning and building. And to me, that is really, really valuable. Yes. So that's right. Back to this. And hopefully my HDMI thing won't bug out again. Now, there are some changes here. One is that the dimensions were slightly wrong on my on my early floor plans. If we look at the front room in particular, I've got to try to zoom. The zoom on floorplanner.com is really touchy. It's very hard to get it zoomed to the right level. Okay, so this is the where the lab is going to be. And you can see there is a little dog leg in the wall here. That wasn't accounted for previously. That's because there is a big cement block pillar right here in this corner. And the existing wall, what happened was that there is this wall here, and then a cement block pillar, and then the wall previously continued on in line with this one. The other wall that we demolished was in line with it. So where my little pointer hand cursor thing is there, it was back here. It's about 30 centimeters behind where this wall is represented here now. So the plan has brought this wall forward about 30 centimeters to the front of this pillar instead of at the back of the pillar. And also there is this little dog leg in this corner which wasn't accounted for. Now, I don't like this couch arrangement or anything. Don't pay any attention to that. That doesn't matter. This is all going to be worked out later. The major area is right around here. And previously there were two doors here side by side with the little dog leg and the split. And also this wall was further across. It was more about here somewhere. So it came in at this point. It actually came in down about here, and then it dog-legged, and then it came down here, and this door was actually like right over here. It's a bit hard to tell because we don't have a reference, but this whole thing is significantly wider than the plan was before. Now, if you just keep this in your mind, so keep remembering this, see this line here? This wall is fixed and it is now directly in line. So this wall has been moved to the right a fairly significant amount. Previously it was dead in the middle between this wall and this wall, so it was about here. And this area was much wider, this area was much narrower. And there are a couple of issues there. The first is that this is a cement block wall. So putting a door here is not a trivial job. This is going to involve cutting through cement block, putting a steel lintel above it to make sure that all the cement blocks above are well supported. And yeah, it's going to be quite an exercise. Putting a door on this wall is a big deal compared to building a door in this wall, which is just a partition wall and doesn't even exist anymore. It's been demolished and we've got to build a new one. Yes, so oh, sorry, I've been yeah, I've been missing a lot of the chat, but for some reason I've just been seeing Dodgy's comments. Dodgy said, I was thinking about what John was saying about my remote control mower. I'm now at a point where I could have just gone out and bought a new ride-on mower, so I saved nothing and still spent time. Yes, but you've made something, and I'm sure you've learned stuff in the process, and yeah. Yes, but then I wouldn't have the satisfaction of saying I did it myself. Exactly. And that has value. The skills that you pick up along the way have value. So I regret nothing. Yeah, so this wall now is moved to the right, and the result of all of this is that this assembly room is now significantly wider than it was before. And you can see, once again, it's a bit hard to tell proportionally, but previously this chair, for example, would have been much closer to the back of the pick and place machine, or the front, whichever way around it is. It would have been harder for two people to walk past each other here. Now it should be easy. There's more room around the place. So it's going to involve this construction work here, putting a wall through this door, this wall being replaced at the front of the pillar instead of the back of the pillar, and it's going to cost a bit more in materials because we need a longer roof span, and yeah, that sort of thing. So, yes, I just saw David T talking about roof space and mezzanine. Okay, so there would, but it would be kind of tight. Now, the ceiling, the roof of the main factory, I think, from memory, is around 4.2 meters, give or take. Maybe a little bit more, like 4.3. I think it might be 4.3 or something to the actual roof, and then there are beams running through, so it's a little bit lower where the beams are. Now, if you build a ceiling at 2 meters, it's really claustrophobic. So in this clean room, if I put the ceiling at 2 meters or even 2.1 meters, it would not feel that far above my head. So I'm 187 centimeters tall. So if the ceiling was at 2 meters, it would be, the ceiling would not be very far above my head. It would be, that far above my head. And that would feel really claustrophobic, particularly if you end up putting light panels in or something like that. And so the ceiling inside the room really needs to be more like 2.3 meters-ish to be comfortable. And then you've got to allow for the thickness of the structure. So say, even if you had 2.4 ceilings and then a bit of structure, say the floor on the next level is at 2.7, that means that you do not have enough room up on the second level to walk around without bashing your head. So yes, I can set it up so that the space above is like a storage mezzanine, but it won't be a full height area that you can just walk around standing upright and do, use it as an extra floor, essentially, an extra level. So what I would probably do is set it up so that the front part of it could be used as storage space, like a things like boxes could be put up there along the front edge, but I don't think I would end up using the whole depth or width of it. That is definitely something I've been thinking about though, like the idea of putting a set of stairs here somewhere and then having a floored area up here that you that you could just walk around on and use it. Because I was thinking about having stock storage and packing and all of that sort of stuff, put it up on a second level up here and not use this floor space. But yeah, I decided that given the height and access issues and carrying boxes up and down and that sort of thing, it's probably not worth it. But that was a very good thought. So yeah, thanks for bringing that one up. So the yeah, in terms of ceiling height, what I'm thinking now, also based on Lachlan's comments about this is going to be a showpiece, is I don't want it to feel like a claustrophobic cave. So I'm probably going to go for 2.7 meter ceilings in here. It's going to end up wider and higher than I was expecting, because what I had been planning to do was use 2.4 meter panels for the walls and then sit the ceiling on top of that. So I would have had 2.4 meter ceilings, which is quite comfortable. 2.4 is, it's kind of like a lowish ceiling in a regular house. So it's fine. Like 2.4 meter ceiling would be totally fine. It wouldn't really feel claustrophobic, but it wouldn't look as grand. And if I wanted to do things like run anything overhead, then it starts to impinge on your visual, like on your feeling of having things over your head. So I'm thinking of going for 2.7 meter ceilings in here, since I've given up on the idea of a mezzanine, like a full mezzanine level above this. Anyway, and if it was Pancake who suggested it, thank you, Pancake. So this is a revised version. You can see that that wall is in line, And I think I set these ceilings to 2.7 meters in the plan. Let's have a look. What is that wall? It is settings 2.7. Yeah, so that these walls have been set to 2.7. And the ceiling is slightly higher in the front area. It's 3.1 or something at that back area. And yeah, so with this revised version, I've got a couple of big panels in here, and these could be acrylic sheets, like 6mm acrylic, at 2440 by 1220 sheet, I think is the size they come in. And so essentially 2.4 meter by 1.2 meter, give or take, sheets. And ideally without a really big frame in the middle, but this is just like a standard window in the library that came with floorplanner.com. So I didn't customize it other than changing the dimensions. That's just why it looks like that. So the idea is a big glass wall, or probably plexiglass wall there, because the plexiglass is cheap and easy to cut. Like we can cut that on, if we needed to do anything with it, we can cut that on the huge laser cutter. And door beside it, and then a bit of blank wall, and then a door through the block wall. And what you can see here, it becomes more clear on this 3D version of the plan, is that being able to do something like run a trolley or a wheelchair or something through here is much easier than with the previous plan, because it's just a straight shot through there. With that door open against this wall, it's just just roll straight through. Nothing to get in the way. With the old plan, it was come like into an alcove, do a 90-degree turn through the door, another 90-degree turn, and then back out again. So I think this is a much more practical sort of layout. And what it does is give a lot more comfort space, I suppose, inside the clean room. So enough room to be able to walk around and not bash into things and get in the way of everything. And it still leaves enough space out here to be usable, like in the stock, like the storage and packing and that sort of area. Because once again, as Lachlan pointed out, he keeps saying very useful things. What you need in this sort of area is not so much width, it's more length. You need wall space, because you need to be able to run rows of shelves, and by making it a little bit narrower, it doesn't actually take away really anything from its usability. I still had 3 rows of shelves there previously. I've still got 3 rows of shelves and still plenty of room to walk around. So sacrificing space in here and gaining it in here, I think, is the correct decision. That's the sensible thing to do. Also, I was thinking about how much time would be spent in here with the kinds of tasks. So yesterday I had Tommy doing some soldering for me. He was, where is it? I can actually show you. There. So yesterday, this is a whole batch of rack 32s. And yesterday I had him putting on through-hole parts. So he was putting on all the headers and the PoE modules, and yeah, these headers and the Ethernet sockets and all that sort of stuff. So he was working on this, and it was just making me think more about this room as being a place that someone would spend time. And if you are going to be spending time in here, sitting here at a workbench, putting parts onto boards and doing all of those sorts of things, it needs to be a place that's comfortable, and making it big enough to be able to move around comfortably is a large part of that. Now, yes. So, Sion says, how big is the space in square meters? That is a good question. I haven't actually checked. Let's see what it says. 45 square meters for the clean room. So overall, the whole thing is about 100 and Well, the way this works out, is there a zoom to fit button? I don't know. I'll just do this. So the way it works out, this space that you can see here on the screen, plus the toilet area, which is up at the back of the factory, comes to, I think, 135 square meters in total. So we've got 45 square meters in the clean room and 33 square meters in the lab area. And then this one I haven't divided into 2 rooms, but that's 53 square meters. And these numbers may not add up quite to the right thing because the proportions, the dimensions are not necessarily exactly correct on this. They're pretty close, but there are things like wall thicknesses that haven't been allowed for, like block wall versus dividing wall and all of that sort of thing. Yeah, so yeah, that's the area. Now, Sion made a point earlier about the reflow oven being at this end. Okay, let's have a look at this. So, all right, actually, before I go to another one, I'm just going to stick with this one. And I'll use this as an example, and I'll show you another one where I did it the opposite direction. Or maybe I don't need to. All right, now, imagine what we want to do is start with bare PCBs and loose parts and end with cleaned, tested, fully assembled PCBs. And we've got to go through a process to get there. Now with this particular cycle, all right, up here we've got stencil storage, and there is a bench here for general stuff like whatever things you need to do. You always need bench space. So this is the input side. We've got this stencil storage here, and then applying solder paste in this area. And this is a normal U, it's not an upside down U. So it starts here, solder paste goes on, through pick and place, inspection or whatever, reflow comes out this end. So out of this end of the process, we have boards that have been through reflow and they have their surface mount parts on, but they will probably still need through-hole parts because I'm not planning to do something like automated selective soldering, and that's a whole extra layer of complication. Things like putting on through-hole headers will be done by manually putting the headers on and then soldering them by hand with the soldering iron. And so what happens is it starts at the top here, comes down the center of the room, comes out of the reflow oven, and the question is, where does it go from there? From the reflow oven, it then needs to come across to a bench here for inspection. So a manual process of putting the board under a microscope and doing things like fixing solder bridges and all of those sorts of things that you come across. And then they go in, and also it's not just inspection and rework. That would also involve things like putting on through-hole headers. So what there would probably be around this area is shelving with lots of trays of PCBs. So there would be a queue at this point of PCBs that have been reflowed but have not yet had anything else done to them. So there would be trays that would be batches or jobs that need to be done. And then whoever was working here would be inspecting and putting on through-hole parts. It then goes into ultrasonic cleaner. So this is where it's now going from the bottom to the top. It comes up this side of the room through ultrasonic cleaner and washing and drying, and comes up out here. And somewhere up here, probably on this bench, it would be, they would need things like final testing and firmware load and all of those sorts of things. So boards typically need firmware put on them. They definitely need testing. They're going to need packaging. So that sort of stuff happens up towards the end on this side of the room. So in this configuration, everything starts at the top here in the middle, comes down the center, comes across here, does a U-turn, and then comes back up the other side and ends up almost back where it started, but fully completed. And if I wanted to make this a single linear production line, this room would be twice as long. But so this is just a folded in half production line. Automated stuff down the center, manual stuff up the side. All right. Okay, so Dentistry said, would it not be better to try and have final assembly on the same side as the exit to the storage and packing? That's a very good point. I think it's probably going to be difficult to do that. Well, there are a couple of considerations. One is if there is going to be any plumbing, it's better on this wall. This is the permanent internal wall of the factory, like the boundary wall of the factory. So if I want to run water in and drainage out and those sorts of things, being able to run pipes along this wall is probably easier to deal with than plumbing on this wall, which is the partition wall between those two things. And also I need length along here, and I need room for these doors. And I just saw that some Call It Fun said, does it make sense to move double doors in the clean room further back so done boards can be moved out? Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe this should be right up here somewhere, and then bring all of this down here. That is a very good suggestion. I'm going to start hacking around on this while we're talking about it. Do not save. I'm going to duplicate this. This is my crude form of revision control. More, duplicate. Yes, duplicate. This is my crude form of revision control in Floor Planner. Just make a copy and keep going. Now, this is going to be a bit of a hack and chop job. Now, so Sion made the comment about fumes, and also I need to ask you about the current state of your reflow oven. Oh, and also, so Sion, I would love to know the story of what's going on with your reflow oven, and I apologize if I'm sure you've already talked about this on live streams and things. I try to catch your live streams when I can, but I don't always. And so if there is a live stream or something where you talk about it, yes, copy version. Yeah, final dash actual final dash revised. Yeah, I would love to know the deal with that, because I would like to know your opinion of the IN6 now that you've had one and used it to death. Do you think that is a problem with the IN6, and would you buy another one? Are you planning to just get another one, or whatever? Yeah. Oh, not fumes, smell. Ventilation will remove fumes, but you won't remove the smell. Okay, that's an interesting distinction. In the short term, I'm going to be using my drawer-based reflow oven, the one that I've shown in the past. And on that, I've built a timber fume hood that goes over it, which is vented to external. I've got a fume extraction system, basically, that like the big silver duct that attaches to that fume cover. And since I've been using that on that reflow oven, there have been no fumes, and I haven't been able to smell it. It's like it doesn't even exist. It does such a good job of pulling all the air. It pulls air in, because it's an active extraction system. It pulls air in through the hood and the oven, and all of the air is vented out. So that has worked really, really well for me. Okay, cool. Thanks, Sion. I would love to hear your experiences about the IN6. Now, just before no, I won't. So, let's do some hacking and moving. Let's grab a bunch of these things and just drag them over here, and grab oops, no, not that. I want that, and that. Oh, and that as well. Might as well grab it and drag it over here. And I'm going to grab this door set, move it. Where should I move it? Maybe about there. Enough room that it's not going to obstruct too much with other stuff. Oh, in fact, what I could do is bring it down just a fraction, and then I can stick a shelf in there. I mean, none of this is really precise because I don't think these shelf lengths or anything are, I don't even know, I can't remember what I based them on, whether they are the actual shelves that I use or not. And then, what do I do? Okay, what I'm going to do is reverse this. I'm going to take part storage shelves and stick them down this way, and I'm going to take the feeder trolley, stick it up here, move it out of the way, move that down there, blah, 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 blah. That thing just below this is something up on the wall, so I can go underneath that and, oops, stick that there, that up there, and yeah, somewhere like that. Parts, I'm going to move that label, stick that chair back there, move that up there. How are we going? We've got a big dead space in the corner here. I was wondering about putting the server rack in this corner, and I think that may actually be the most sensible thing. Take that, bring it down here, and I'm going to rotate it, stick it in. I need to be able to get to both the front and the back of it, but maybe about there. And then I could duplicate that, stick another. Yeah, so this could be like outbound storage or something, I don't know. And duplicate and stick another one on there. Something like that, anyway. This is just a quick hack around to see how it works with those doors taken down towards the back. And I kind of like that. That is a very sensible suggestion, so thank you. Stephen says, will having the oven close to the rack be an issue? I don't know. Now, what I'm hoping is that with a cover over the oven and active extraction, so it's pulling all the air out of it, there really shouldn't be any radiant heat. And the experience that I've had with my current oven is that with running the hood, you can't actually even feel that it's running from right near it, right in front of it. All of the heat is very well contained within it. And so you can't smell it, you can't feel it. So having the oven here in this area does not mean that this part of the room is going to heat up. It should have effectively zero effect on the environment around it. Yeah, so server rack need to be able to probably do something like have the front door on this side and have the wiring at the back there, which means cable could go up on a cable tray up onto the top area there. Right. Do a 180 on the machine line so the oven out leads to the double doors where things will be stored eventually. Okay, so I do actually have versions. Yes, save and continue. How far back do I have to go? There. Okay. This version. So this version had the line going in the opposite direction, and it also had the rest of the factory space mocked out there. But with this one, you can see this was my original plan. The way I was thinking about it was there would be like a fridge in here for storage of solder paste, stencil storage down this end, apply solder paste here, and then boards progress up the room and go to the reflow oven out this end, and then take a step across Or actually I was thinking of maybe bringing them all the way back down here. So it would go up and then back to the start into ultrasonic and then back up again to this area here. So yeah, I've experimented with a few different orientations of the sides and the center. But, oh, no, I didn't want to cancel, I wanted to do not save. This is bugging me now. Let's, oh, not that. Oh yes, that is where you do it. Let's make that one 8. No, where's 7? Oh, 7 is there. 6, 7. Okay, I don't get it. It's out of order. But let's just roll with it. This one I will make 9. Or we could export it, stick it into Git, and then just name it after its hash. No, let's not do that. And that one 10. All right. Back to this one. Back to the one we've just been hacking around on. Brian asked, is the server rack actively cooled? Self-contained cooling rack? No. I've got a couple of 42U server racks in the garage at the moment. So my plan was I'm going to give one of those to Lachlan and keep one myself. They're enclosed 42U racks. They've got extraction fans at the top, which can be hooked up to a vent, like so that it can draw air up through it and then vent it out the top. So like top extraction instead of hot aisle, cold aisle. In a data center, typically you have a hot aisle and a cold aisle. Let's not get into that. I spent way too much time in data centers during my IVT days. So but this is not a data center type installation. It is a single rack in an area that's going to be used for other things. And I don't even know if the best place to have it is in this room. And this also comes down to the whole thing about it being a place where people are going to spend time, and I want to make it a really nice environment. I don't want it to be a place where you've got lots of industrial noise behind you, like fans constantly whirring and that sort of stuff. There is going to be noise from the pick and place machines. That's unavoidable. They use compressed air and they move, and there's going to be that sort of thing. But I don't want to add things that can be avoided, like cooling or noise from the server rack. Now, the server rack is not going to be like a high density, high power thing. All it's there for is convenience of putting in some Ethernet switches and like a NAS and a few things like that. It's not going to be, you know, pulling 5,000 watts or something out of a rack. It's going to be a few hundred watts probably, you know, somewhere in that sort of in region. So it's not going to be generating a huge amount of heat, and I can vent externally if necessary. But I'm still not even sure if it should be in this room. That's right, that's where I was going with that train of thought. So I've thought about other places to put it. I could just put this server rack out here somewhere. Like it could go in the open area. But I don't want it to be exposed to too much dust. I can kind of seal it and have filters on the air intakes, but this area is not going to be as clean as these two areas. I definitely don't want it sitting in the lab, because then I'll just have constant fan noise in this area, which needs to be quiet. I don't prefer not to have it in the clean room for the same reason. It's going to be just, you know, buzzing fans and things. Having it out here would not be so bad, particularly given that this is high span ceiling area, and sound is much worse when it's in an enclosed space with the ceiling low. The same noise being made in this enclosed room with the ceiling over it would be much more obnoxious than having it out here in a big open area with a high ceiling where the sound will just be dispersed and absorbed by different things. So I am really tempted to put the server rack out here somewhere. It could even just be on the other side of this wall. It could be right here, where I've currently got a bench in the plan. That would be quite convenient. Maybe I should do that. Yeah, Bob P says, rack with gear in an office space equals bad. Can confirm. Yeah. Yes. Stephen W said, could you put the rack on top of the clean room? I thought of that, yes, but they are very heavy. Even empty ones. These racks, trying to think of weight. The empty rack with nothing in it is something in the order of 100 or 110 kilos, I think. And then once you start putting some machines in it, it can head towards 200 kilos without any problem at all. And that's not much. Like compared to racks in a data center, those things are so heavy because they're just jam-packed with computers, and hard disks are the heaviest things in the world. But even a lightly loaded rack can easily be up in the sort of 200 kilo region. And I don't want to have it sitting up on top of this unless I built a platform for it. It would have to be a solid platform, and it would also make it quite difficult to get to. I'd need steps or something to get up to it. So yeah, I have thought of that, but I don't think it's practical. I think it needs to be sitting on the concrete floor in one of these rooms. Aaron says, surely the noise from the pick and places in the oven will far exceed the server rack noise. Yes, that's true. But that's intermittent noise. It's when those particular things are running, and I'd rather not add to it. So even if there is a certain amount of unavoidable noise, I don't want to add avoidable noise to that in addition to it. I expect that whoever is in this room for extended periods of time is going to be doing what I do, which is wear noise cancelling headphones. So what I'm normally doing when I'm running, like even my little pick and place machine here, I typically am wearing noise cancelling headphones and listening to a podcast or something. So I can't even hear anything. Like I can't hear the machine running, and I'm just listening to, whatever I'm listening to. But I do not want to add more. It's one of those things where it's a balance. From an environmental point of view, a nice place to put the rack is in here because it means that it's always going to be clean. There won't be any dust building up in the fans, in the devices or anything. But I'm kind of leaning towards putting it on the outside, sitting it out here somewhere. Maybe right there. Michael says, can't hear the machine munching components. Yep. Bob says, I personally put the rack as far away as you can from where you'll be sitting all day. Yeah. The more I look at this, the more I think the other side of this wall is a reasonable place. Let's just move that out of the way. Oh, what is that? That's a tool thing, I think, and I think that was like a medical thing. Let's just move this on the other side of this wall. We can put it right there. Oops. Move that there. Put that bench in place. In fact, what I'll do is I'll butt that bench up against that. That should still allow room. I mean, all of this is hypothetical at the moment because even things like the bench lengths, this is just stuff I've thrown in there from the floor planner library to have something to go on it. So yeah, and as you can see, I don't have a proper model for a server rack. This is just a shelving unit that I have modified the dimensions on it to make it So if you look at it from this direction, if this was the front, that's the width of a 42 rack unit system, and then that's the depth, and then the back on there. So it could be front door on this side, back door on this side. And that would still give enough room to, well, if that was slightly shorter or something, it needs to be enough room to open the door, obviously, the back door. But then as long as that back door could open up against the wall and open flat, then you can get in behind it and get to all the cables and stuff. And then there could be conduit or a cable tray that goes straight up this wall and distributes the cable, because this would be where all the Ethernet terminations would go to. And then we've got more space inside the clean room, down around this corner. More stuff could go down here. Peter, every single week I think you say, word for word, folks, please remember to like this stream for the stats. Do you have a macro or something that does that? Thank you for doing it. Oh, that's a very good point. Some Cooler Fun says, would you ever drive into the loading dock through the roll-up door? Allowing for things in here to be movable and the width of it. Keeping in mind that this roll-up door is wide enough. What have I got it marked at here? I don't know if this dimension is correct, but this roller door is a truck size roller door. So if I wanted to drive in a car, for example, I could drive a car in here and still have some stuff on the walls. It would be just wide enough for that. But if there are benches and things in this front area, having them on wheels would be a very sensible thing. Doshi says no, he lifted up first. Yes. I said a silly thing on that video. Yes, I could drive a truck into that door. No. I think I'd open the door and drive the truck through the hole left by the door. Yeah, well that's actually an interesting thing to look at. With this wall moved here, this space, see this is 14.62 meters. From the roller door to the back here is 14.62 meters. And that is a truck size roller door at the front. That means that this space here is approximately one semi-trailer worth, because standard semis are 14 meters long. If that roller door was up and not accounting for the little bit of space on the sides there, that room is approximately the size. It is a room that is just big enough to contain a complete semi-trailer. So yeah, that gives you some perspective on size as well. Right. Oh, outside the box says 2.6 meters wide. Yep. So a semi is 2.6 meters wide. This door is, so this room is 3.6 meters wide. So it is basically, in fact, I'm pretty sure it was deliberately designed this way. The gap between this wall and this wall, so this isn't the other concrete block wall, with this roller door, this is the perfect size to drive a truck into, with 50 centimeters of clearance on each side. And if anyone wants a citation on that, outside the box, his job, I don't know if it's your job right now, but in the past certainly, outside the box's job has been driving trucks. So if anyone knows the dimensions, he would. Yeah, oh, the door should be 2.6. Yeah, it is a little bit more than that. What is it? If I go mouse over it, come on. I had a dimension popping up there earlier, I'm sure. Oh, if I edit the attributes, maybe, oh, it says it up here. 3.08 meters. Okay, so that door is 3.08 meters wide. Right. Where am I up to? That's right. So we were talking about the direction of this. Let's get back to this little bit of the room. This whole live stream is just going to be messing around with plans for the Super Lab, which suits me. It's interesting, and it's kind of important to me. It may not be important to anybody else though. Now, all right, so current arrangement is the U, starting from here, going down, going across, and then going back up again. And the suggestion by Sion is that having the reflow oven at this end is probably not a good idea. Now, this room ideally is going to be sealed because I'm going to be running it as a clean room. It is going to be kind of air sealed and a bit of air being blown into it to maintain positive pressure. So, do we reverse this whole thing? If we reverse this, Now the other thing to keep in mind is that this could be reversed and then a conveyor belt could be run all the way back up from the end to the start again. Now, Chris says, free tutorial on floor planner. Almost designed my bathroom. Yeah. Sion says, see my comment back up. Okay. I've got to scroll. Where is Sion's previous comment? Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. That's a lot of scrolling. Okay. Sion says, well, if you're going to spend 55k upwards on a conveyor oven, you'll get limited heat and no smell. If you're going to spend less, you're dreaming. Yeah. Okay. So, oh no, I just saw, when I was scrolled way back, I saw a comment about the fire reel. Dodgy says, ooh, this is a good suggestion. Can you move the door in the office to the left near the fire reel so you aren't losing space? And that is a really interesting suggestion. So what Dodgy is talking about there is, in this corner, there is a fire reel, and it's not showing on here because I don't actually have a model for one. Let's see if I've got a, I'm sure I stuck fire extinguishers in this model somewhere. Let's find a fire, those little things are fire extinguishers. Okay, that's a better representation is this tool thing. Okay, I'm going to copy that. So let's come into here and grab, I'm going to move that out of the way, grab that, duplicate it, and I'm going to stick it on this wall right here, and then move this bench back again. Now, in the video where we did the demolition, come on, can I select this? Yes. I want to move it up. Yeah, in the video where I showed the demolition of the wall, what I showed also is that there is a fire hose, a big reel, right in this corner, which is really annoying. But imagine that this wire spool holder that I've just stuck on the wall here is actually one of those big round red fire hoses. So, and that's plumbed through. Moving that would be an expensive pain. So it's going to stay there. Now, the issue is that kind of makes a dead corner here. This corner of the room is an annoying dead zone. And so what Dodgy is suggesting is, instead of having windows here and then a door over here in this corner, which is a little bit awkward, this door could be moved over here and make use of this kind of semi-dead corner and then move these over here. I like that idea. Let's see what happens if we do that. Let's move this door down here. We'll take this window, move it over here. In fact, this could even become maybe a triple panel instead of a double. I wonder if there would be a clearance problem with the door. Like if that door is open and it opens across the hose reel, that could be a problem. But let's ignore that question for now and just put a door right here, and I'm gonna move that. It's not working for me. All right, move that over there, that'll do. And then I'm going to, just as an experiment, I'm going to make this, it is currently 2440, so let's make that 366. So that is 3 panels wide, which means the frame is not going to be accurately represented, but I don't really care that much. Come on, it's snapping into stupid places. All right, let's do this. So what we've got now is the door on this side and then glass wall here. That is definitely worth considering. It had never even crossed my mind, dodgy. So at the moment this is represented as a 2-panel window, but it would actually be 3 vertical panels. This is just because I hacked the I just changed the settings on that window to make it wider. Yeah, so the problem with this is if you have a fire and you need to use that fire reel, that hose reel, having that door open this way, it would open in front of the hose reel. You'd have to have that door closed to get to the reel. And I don't think that would be an acceptable thing, just from like a fire standards point of view, like a fire code point of view. If this door opened the other way, if it opened into the lab area, that would work. However, I need to consider the air pressure situation. And do we want doors that are going, so if the door opens in and this room is positive pressure, it's going to be pushing that door closed and holding it closed, and it would be sort of pushing against a seal. So if it opens from the if it opens outside and you turn the handle, the air pressure will make the door jump open, and closing the door you'd be pushing against the air pressure. And I don't think the air pressure is going to be that significant. It's not going to be crazy. But it'll mean that you'd be pushing against the air pressure and then the latch would be holding it closed. Yeah, Aaron says, in order to maintain positive pressure, your doors will need auto closers anyway. I do need that door. James said you don't need that door at all. Now, I do need that door, and that is because these other doors back here, these aren't ever actually going to be used. The only reason to have the double doors here is to be able to run a forklift in for bringing equipment in and out. But the thing is that this is the clean, this is the clean area directly adjacent to a very not clean area. This is like an open span factory with going up to the ceiling, like the roof of the factory. And yeah, I don't want all the dust and crap from out here coming in here. So the idea is that these doors would not be used generally. They would be kept closed, and only the door through from the lab area would be used for accessing the clean room. And then if you're wanting to take stuff in and out, you would bring it through this door. Ooh, so this is an interesting thing. I had kind of forgotten about that criteria earlier when we were moving this door, because one of the reasons for putting the door up the back here is that it makes sense when boards are finished, like say they come off the end of testing and everything, they're packaged in their anti-static bags or whatever they are, then they need to leave this room somehow. Where do they go? And where they go, ultimately, is going to be out onto these shelves. So if this door is used, it'll be to take stuff out and put it into this area. But I wasn't wanting that door to be used. Maybe it's not a problem. Maybe I'm overthinking the whole thing by saying that the only access to the clean room would be from the lab. And maybe it is fine to use these doors just like as general transit and go. The thing is that if the doors are there, I know I'm going to use it. There is no way, if I am in here and I wanted to get something that was on a shelf just out here, that I would walk through here, through this door, through here, through this door, all the way around to here, get it, and then walk all the way back again. If the door is there and it's unlocked, it's going to be used. Yeah, I suspect that I'm just overthinking the clean room aspect of it a bit too much. Yeah, and as Brian says, if the room is positive pressure, moving finished product shouldn't be an issue. Yeah, and Johnny says you are overthinking it. I know. Oh, Jordan says, seems like you could move the double doors all the way to the front and rotate the entire clean room 180. Yes, I could. That's right. Yes, so that is the alternative layout. And in fact, I think to some extent that's why these doors were down this end, because in my original plan, I had the reflow oven up this end and paste printer down this end. You know what? This is getting to the point where I could just be talking around and around in circles here. At some point, obviously I need to plan it. I'm not going to just start sticking stuff in there with no idea. Yeah, Charles suggested an airlock. No, there's not enough space for it, and I don't want to go to that extent. The thing is that anything is going to be an improvement on my current situation. So I want to make this room nice, but this is not high terror levels of super nice, you know, totally filtered air environment. Ooh, Johnny says, my first job was designing ventilation stuff. Ooh, maybe I need your expertise. There are some big decisions that have to be made, like the position of doors and windows, because once that's done, it's really, really hard to change. But other things like whether this line goes top to bottom or bottom to top, I can decide that on the spot. That can be changed, and it can be reversed if necessary. It's not that hard to just pick up the machines and move them around in here and turn them around. So it needs to be yeah, this plan needs to be good enough but not ridiculously overthought. Now, coming back to, okay, now that we've got the idea of making these windows longer, that actually kind of makes me want to put this back in here. Because, just because it would look cool. So from this point of view, the server rack could have its front on this side. And so when you're in here, you would be able to see through the windows and you'd see the front of the server rack, not the back of it. And that would kind of look cool. And I think I could make it quiet enough, just with some sound baffling and stuff on it. And it's not like I'm running a whole lot of blade servers. I'm not going to be pumping kilowatts through it. But I can and have spent hours and hours just messing around. So this whole thought process that I'm going through now, that I'm talking through with you, I have spent so much time doing this. Going through the, oh, what if I move this here? What if this was over here? Then you can do this until your head explodes. Oh, David T says another consideration might be a servery-like window rather than double doors. That is a really good suggestion. Yeah. Oh, Brian says, but which way does the server rack doors open? They can be hung either way. They're reversible and everything. So I can put the front on open left or open right and stuff. It doesn't matter. Aaron says, ship it. Yes. And blink and lighten. Yes. Now, yeah, that's the reason for having the server rack here visible through these this big glass wall, is so you could see the server rack and all the blink and lightens. Now, so David said another consideration might be a servery-like window rather than double doors. Okay, now that is kind of akin to a suggestion that Lachlan had, which I have dismissed because of a couple of reasons. It's an interesting idea. It's something that he has seen in a food production place. Now, I can't remember, he might have told me where, but I don't think it really matters. A food factory that makes, say, chocolate bars. And you have a production line where, so what they did in this particular food factory was they had a big acrylic window, a see-through thing. So you could be on one side of the wall and the machines doing the food production were on the other side of the wall. And in this particular case, I think it was packaging. So what they were doing was something like packaging chocolate bars. And they cut a tiny little hole in the acrylic wall, and then a conveyor belt would come up to the hole, and then I don't know if it was like one conveyor belt right through or if it was two conveyor belts butted against each other. But in any case, the machine's output would pass through this little hole in the wall so that you could be on one side of it. And because it was a positive pressure room, dust and things couldn't go from the outside through the hole into the inside. And so there would be like this little stream of chocolate bars coming out through this tiny little hole in the glass window on this conveyor belt. So Lachlan suggested, well, maybe what you could do is you could have coming out of the reflow oven, go to a conveyor belt, and then have it come to a little hole in the wall, and then have the boards come through a slot. So it's like this big room of automated stuff, and then it spits boards out through a hole in the window. The problem with that is that you need some kind of a drawbridge arrangement, because what you have is all of this comes straight up to the window, and you do need access to be able to walk around from time to time. So the conveyor belt needs to be a drawbridge arrangement so you can lift it up and walk through and lower it back down again. And yeah, from a practical point of view, it's not that useful because boards still have to go to have through-hole parts soldered on and stuff, and do, you know, the washing and testing, etc. And then having the boards spat out this end is not actually that useful. It's one of those things that's like kind of like a cool trick, but not really useful. So, but the suggestion about who was it? I want to give credit to the right person. David T said another consideration might be a servery-like window rather than double doors. This was the comment I read a few minutes ago. So instead of double doors, a servery-like window. So when boards are finished here, that actually could be a really practical way to do this. There could be something like a box in the wall here with doors on both sides, and you open the door on the inside, put stuff in it and close it, and then it's accessible from the outside. So around the other side, you just open the doors and the stuff is there. That is kind of cool. That I still need double doors though. The specific reason for putting double doors on here is to be able to run a forklift in and out of this room, because these machines are heavy. The pick and place machines they're just under, I think they're just under 300 kilos each when they don't have feeders loaded. Or is that when they do have feeders loaded? I can't remember. But they're in that sort of region, 300 plus kilos per machine, and there'll be 3 of them, plus the other machines and things that go in here. And I want to be able to do things like bring in cabinets and fit cabinets in here, like there'll be a washer, PCB washer, all that sort of stuff. So I need double door access to be able to do that. And the double doors need to be high enough that the forklift can fit through them while they are carrying something. So when you raise the tines on a forklift, there is a frame above it that goes up as well. So if you lift something off the ground, the forklift gets higher at the top. And the doors need to be high enough that the forklift can go through it when the tines are off the ground to carry a load. So I don't really have any way around having double doors. They're going to be extremely useful, so I want those on there. Oh, hang on, I think I just missed something. Joel says, you're better having doors at the end where the stencil storage is. Even though it's dirty on the outside, it lets you straight line in. Yes, from the back you're talking about. I know what you mean. The thing is that what's behind here is Lachlan's factory area, and he has benches and machines. All of this area is jam-packed full of stuff. And even down here it's jam-packed. There is a spot welding machine right here in this corner behind this wall, and so the position of these doors is going to be kind of critical. We need to have them far enough out that we can clear his spot welding system that is just here. And at the moment, all the way down the back of where this wall is going to be, so this area right here, this is all benches which are backing onto this wall area. And then there are benches up here, and there's a CNC machine and lots of stuff. So yes, it's a really interesting suggestion. Putting these double doors on this wall to be able to go straight through here would be interesting, but it would require Lachlan's side of it here to be rearranged to make that possible, and I don't think that's really practical, because I'm going to be impinging on his space enough with this set of double doors, and we do need these doors as well, because we want to be able to bring stuff in through this loading dock, and for example run a forklift from this loading dock straight through this space and out through into his factory area here. So it's going to be a transit area right through here to between the front and the back. And so these double doors have to stay, and adding another set of double doors here where it says stencil storage, which I think was the suggestion, would not be practical just in terms of what's on the other side of that wall. But of course, if you hadn't seen what's there, you wouldn't know that. Have I seen the Warrior Factory tour video? No, I have not. I have not. Dodgy says, could you use a pallet loader? This is that comment is in relation to the overhead clearance of the forklift when moving stuff around in here. Maybe. I'm thinking of the sequence of that. The thing is that what we need to be able to do is, once inside this room, lift the machines onto stands, because the pick and place machines that I've got, they don't have stands under them. I can sit them on the floor, but ideally they need to be put on stands that are about 430 millimeters high in order to bring the input and output conveyor belts to the ideal height. Like the IPC standard height for conveyor belts. And so what we would need to do probably is put the stand in here and then bring the pick and place machine in and lift it high enough to put it down on the stand. And that means doing it with a forklift, not with something like a pallet jack. The alternative would be to do all of that fit up out here in this area, like use the forklift to put the machine on the stand and bolt them together, and then use something like a pallet jack to lift the whole assembly and move the entire thing into here. Yeah, okay, got to think through that process. Oh, Adafruit, okay. Got bit by autocorrect. So what Charles was suggesting was looking at the Adafruit factory tour. No, I haven't. Is there a recentish one? Let's see, Adafruit factory tour. Featuring a tour, is that the one? Made in NYC, quick tour and test. That was from 2016, live factory tour 2017. Maybe it's this one. I'm not going to go through and play this whole thing right now because actually if I play a YouTube video on YouTube, does it get flagged for copyright? I don't know, maybe. But in any case, I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to watch this video. Now, is that the one? 2020. Yeah. So looks like this is the one. Joel said stands with wheels. Yes, so I've also thought about putting, my plan is actually to put casters on the stands, like lockable casters. So you're right, that could be practical. What I could do is load them and then move them on the stand in without needing a pallet jack or a forklift. Yeah. All right. I'm going to save this video and watch it afterwards. And if anybody else, I'm just going to drop the link to this in the chat. So Adafruit Factory Tour 2020 is that one. Oh, Joel says, I'm trying to find the wheels we use. Yeah, cool. Thanks. Lachlan also uses it. So I should say Lachlan's job is building production line equipment for food and pharmaceutical factories. So he does this stuff all the time. It's his expertise, and I'm getting lots and lots of advice from him. He's already made some suggestions about possible wheels to put on the stands, but I am definitely up for all the suggestions, all the input. Joel says they hold over 3 tons. I don't need quite that much. 300 kilos, give or take, is nice. Now, what am I doing? Oh yeah, so this video, I'm going to check this video out later. Thanks for the suggestion about Charles for that. I'm going to check that out. And yeah, the video factory tours of Shenzhen Hytera. This one here.
Really?
Oops. I'm going to add this link in as well. Factory tours of Shenzhen. This video, which I'm not going to play either, this was made by my friend Carl when we were in China, and this video was all filmed in the Hytera factory. Oh, and there's another one. There's a Sea Studio tour here as well. So this one was on the same trip, and I think it might have been the day before we went to Hytera. We went to Seed. Factory tours, tours of Shenzhen, and I'll put in. So the first link that I dropped in was the tour of the Hytera factory, which was mind-blowing. That place was incredible. And this was when we went to the, I'm going to hit, where is audio? I'm going to hit mute on that. So this was when we went to the Seed, skip over that part. This was when we went to the seed factory. So this was just in the general office at Seed Studios, and they had this really cool wall with all these things from. Come on, got to get in there. Oh yeah, so where was that one? Was this part of Seed? I can't remember. That doesn't look like Seed. No, that was a different place. Somewhere in here. Oh yeah, that's what's his name? I can't remember. The guy who owns Seed. Oh yeah, here we go. Somewhere in here. Yeah, this was inside the Seed factory. Somewhere along here we've got their lots and lots of interviews, and not enough time of the actual production line, which is what I'm looking for. Yeah, well, you can see some stuff there. So that's obviously a reflow oven in the background there. Yeah, lots of stuff. Ooh, jacking casters. Okay, Charles said the wheels might be jacking casters. Brian, you got to go. Okay, thanks for coming along. Yes. So, Aaron said, not sure if you followed the progress on the new Matter IoT standard, but it's being delayed until June 2022 by the looks of it. I haven't paid attention to it recently. Like I've looked at it kind of very superficially a little while ago when it was announced. I hadn't heard that it had been delayed. Yeah, I need to get into that, learn a bit more about it. So, yeah, I am a total sucker for factory tours. I love the equipment in the factories. So, yeah, thanks for the link to the Adafruit factory tour. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, check out that link that I put in, the factory tours of Shenzhen. The Seed one as well, but check out the one that is just factory tours of Shenzhen. That is a tour of the Hytera factory, which is one of the top tier manufacturers in China, and that factory is insane. It's even now, several years later. So that when was that? I can't remember. It was a few years ago that I was over there, and I'm sure that they have advanced their factory since then. And the one that we were in was not even necessarily the most advanced factory they had, but it was still incredible. And in that video, it starts off, so it's kind of in two sections. We start off on one floor of a factory, which was a slightly older generation, and then we went to a different floor where they had their almost state-of-the-art at the time factory, which was the smart factory, whatever, I don't know, they got some term for it. And yeah, that's the point at which it becomes mind-blowing. And there is a whole lot of stuff that is not even mentioned in that video. What particularly got my attention was their quality control and asset tracking and part tracking, like tracking every single component on every single board all the way back through to its original compliance certificate, and the tests that they did on all of their incoming stock of their parts. It was just nuts. Aaron said, so when is your Mac Studio Ultra arriving? Do we need to start another fund? No, it's not arriving anytime soon. Yeah, so the Mac Mini that I'm working on right now, and what you are looking at right now with this screen share, is like it's the bottom end Mac Mini M1, which I got as a stopgap measure, hoping that the super fast Mac Minis would come out, and it has been doing pretty well, I must admit. It's for things like Fusion 360. It still has noticeable lags on things. Like if I've got complex models then they become quite jerky when I'm moving them around, and it takes a while to render and that sort of thing. But Charles just pointed out YouTube channel Strange Parts has a factory tour section as well. Yes, definitely. Yeah, he has a brain injury that has forced him to stop making videos, which is that's really tough. Am I thinking of the right person? I think I am. Yeah, and I can't remember his name. Strange Parts guy, I'm pretty sure, is the guy who bashed his head somehow and ended up with a brain injury, which meant that. So he was doing absolutely fascinating videos. He lived in Shenzhen for a little while, and was building stuff and going to factories. So he did like a JLC PCB factory tour and a few others, and he was doing some really, really cool videos and showing interesting stuff. And unfortunately, he had to stop making videos for a while. Yeah. Yes. Stephen W says, check your page file while it's doing that. Likely an issue with only 8 gig of RAM. Yeah. So this machine, about this Mac, this is a base model Mac Mini. So it's only got 8 gig of RAM and 500 gig of storage. So this was paid for mostly out of the fundraiser that was done. So it's basically saved my ability to work. The iMac that I was using, the really old one, was just really, really hard to get anything done. It was so slow. And being able to buy this Mac Mini was incredible. It's I went down to JB Hi-Fi or wherever it was and just bought the base model Mac Mini, brought it home, plugged it in, and it was such a big leap over the performance of what I was using before. So my previous machine had 32 gig of RAM in it, but it was a really old iMac, and it was, the graphics were slow and the storage was slow and the processor wasn't so good. This was a big step up from it. I would love to get a Mac Studio, but yeah, I've got other things to spend money on right now. So many expenses in relation to doing this. Yeah, so a Mac Studio is not very likely in my near future. I'm better off continuing to use the Mac Mini, which was intended as a stopgap measure, but it has proven to be a very, very effective stopgap measure, and I'm really happy with it. Of course, having one that was a bit more upspec'd would be nice, but this is good. This is good. I don't have any complaints about it. And so what I'm better off doing is focusing on, instead of replacing my Mac Mini with a Mac Studio, getting the factory space sorted out so that I can be productive, so that I can do things like, hang on, where is this gone? Is this going to work? So I can do things like make more boards. So these boards, what you can see here, this is the batch. There are 8 of them. So 8 rack 32s. This has taken nearly 2 days of work to put these together. It is incredibly inefficient the way I'm currently working. Only maybe half the parts on the board are being put on in the pick and place machine. The other half have to be put on by hand, and that is largely... Oh, outside the box says, just looked up that Strange Parts guy. Seems pretty interesting. Yeah, I should put a link to his channel in the chat here as well. Aaron says, I'll ask the question everyone is wondering. What is the aspirational time frame to get moved into the Super Lab? Aspirational time frame. Sorry, I'm typing here. Channel. I'm going to drop this channel into the chat as well. When's his most recent video? Oh yeah, yes, I was right. It was him. Scotty, is it? I think his name is Scotty. I have a brain injury. Yeah, he posted 3 months ago. So this is Strange Parts. I've just dropped Scotty's channel link. Where are we? Yeah, this is it. So Strange Parts, 1.84 million subscribers, really popular channel. I think his name is Scotty, but I can't remember. It's a little while since I've looked at this. So he's done some really cool things. Like he's done videos that have got massive coverage, like how I made my own iPhone in China and building a custom iPhone. He's done some really interesting projects which have been taking advantage of being physically on site in Shenzhen, where all of the resources are right there, and you can go, like you can walk into a factory and say, make me this, and get stuff made. So yeah, he's built a whole bunch of things, and his channel was doing super well, totally deserved. Like he does really cool videos, and then he stopped posting for a while. Like the videos just stopped, and then he did this post 3 months ago saying that he has a brain injury, which is why he had to stop working on videos, which is very sad, and I hope he recovers. He fully recovers quickly. But if you go back through some of his older videos, he's got some really cool stuff in here. This one was the one I think that really got a whole lot of attention, bringing back the iPhone headphone jack. So this was when Apple took removed the headphone jack from the iPhone, and he made a custom board, like a flex PCB that inserts inside an iPhone and gives it back a headphone jack. Yeah. Anyway, what are we doing? I don't know. What are we doing? 11:53. It must be... oh, Johnny says, yes, Scotty. Cool. My memory is suspect. But in this case, I got it right. Thank you. Yeah. Outside the box says, is it a naturally aspirated time frame? If it is, it's going to be very high compression ratio. Because I want to get the maximum power out of it. Yeah. So Aaron, I got distracted. I wasn't avoiding the question. Aspirational time frame. The naturally aspirated time frame for the Super Lab. It's kind of at the tipping point now where I can start doing things. Probably pretty much after, my guess is tomorrow, I will be able to start getting in. Now, one of the slight complications is that Lachlan had a customer drop off a machine, like a piece of equipment, unexpectedly a few days ago, and they had nowhere to put it, so they put it into the front of factory 2, which is where I'm moving into. So right now there's a big piece of equipment in there that is taking up space, and there is still a whole lot of stuff that needs to be moved out. So clearing it so that I can take possession of it is still a little way away. And if you saw the video from last weekend where we demolished the wall, you would have seen that there is still a lot of stuff like steel that's stored along the exterior wall and bits and pieces lying around. And right now it doesn't look like Lachlan's got anywhere to put it, so I'm not sure where it's going to fit. So there are some things I can do. I need to rip up the carpet in the lab area and replace the flooring. but there are still filing cabinets and a whole lot of other gear that is sitting in there. So I don't actually have clear access to the floor yet. There is a bench that needs to be demolished, and yeah, it's in this difficult transition state where I don't actually have access to do things properly yet. I'm working around, or if I do, I have to work around the things that Lachlan still has in there. So I can't just go, non-naturally aspirated and turn up the boost and go and, do all the things I want to do. But hopefully it's at the point where I can start working around Lachlan's existing stuff that's in there and begin doing some preparation. Maybe I will be able to clear enough of the floor to be able to paint the clean room floor, for example. Or at least, I think what I'll probably do is put one coat of paint down on the clean room floor, or pretty much all the floor. If I can, it's going to have to be done in segments by moving things around, but not like a final coat. I put one coat down to get it all clean and sealed and stop dust, reduce dust at least. And yes, Peter, it is nearly time to stop. My stomach is telling me that as well. And then go on with things like building the walls before doing the final coat of paint on the floor. So yeah, I'm gonna have to, it's gonna be a bit of a moving puzzle sort of job where I have to move some stuff around to make a clear area to work there and then move the stuff back onto that area to work somewhere else. But hopefully it won't be too much longer and Lachlan will have the rest of the gear out of there, like the rest of his stuff out, and I'll be able to actively start setting the space up. The other thing, of course, is that I need to get all of the panels and things that I need to build this room out. And one of the important things that was brought up by someone in the chat last week, week before, somewhere fairly recently, was fire rating on all of this stuff as well. And some of the problems that places like food factories have had recently with insurance, because they have polystyrene foam panels, which can be really bad if there's a fire. It's a bad fuel source for the fire. You can get panels that are fire rated, so I think that is worth doing. And I've spoken to a place that makes cool room panels, and they make them not just for cool rooms. They're used for all sorts of purposes, like partition walls and insulating buildings and those sorts of things. And they make a version of a cool room panel which costs a fair bit more, and it's a lot heavier, because instead of just having polystyrene in the middle, it's got like a flame retardant material. I'm not even quite sure what it is. Some kind of like foamed epoxy, maybe. And those things are fire rated. So that is important from an insurance point of view, from a safety point of view, etc. Yes. Oh, outside the box says, please tell Lachlan I think he's ace for helping you out. Yeah, I think he's ace too. Lachlan is a very clever, very interesting and very industrious guy. So I'm lucky to have him, as a landlord, I suppose. So, yeah. I've just spent another 2 hours talking about this. Sorry, I'm staring off to the side because I'm looking at the floor plan again. Just sort of going around and around things in my head. Nothing really resolved, but thanks for the really interesting suggestions. The idea of moving this door down to the back, I think that is a good one. The idea of having something like a pass-through area so that boards could be stacked on a shelf from inside without even going in or out of the room. That is a really cool idea. So having something like a box a boxed in area somewhere here where I can open a door on the inside and just shove stuff in there and close the door again. That I think would be a really handy thing to do, like a transit area, a portal that goes through. We need a portal gun. Yeah, a portal that goes through here to pass stuff in and out is really cool. Peter says run away, lunchtime. Yes. Oh, okay. I hadn't actually even got back to the the question about date. The short answer is I don't know. A lot of this, unfortunately, is dependent on Lachlan right now, and he has other business obligations. He's got customers that he needs to build machines for, and he's got to do his regular day-to-day stuff. So his big rearrangement to make this space for me is an extra obligation on top of all of his normal work, and I don't want to harass him. I'd like it if it was all done right now this weekend, but it's not, and I don't know when it will be. So yeah, I kind of just have to go with the flow a little bit, which gives me more time for thinking about ideas and taking suggestions, like moving the doors and making this a big panel clear wall. If I'd had full access to the factory a couple of months ago, when, you know, around the time frame that I was talking to Lachlan about it and we were deciding to do it, what I would have ended up fitting out would be not nearly as good as what will be done now, having thought through this process and talked about it with a number of people and taken so much input, all the ideas about where to stick things and the direction of flow. That's right, we didn't really even get back to the thing about reversing all of this again and putting the reflow oven up here. Maybe I'll make another copy of this. I'll make a copy, and then reverse all of this again. Although I'm not so sure. I'm kind of inclined to keep this orientation. And in terms of smell, I don't think it really makes any difference whether the oven is at this end versus this end for the lab area and what would get out into here. Because if it smells in this room, the smell will get out in either case. And I don't think it's going to make a difference. So, an aperture, yes. David T says we need an aperture. Yes. I was actually thinking what I'm going to do. So I've got the stencil storage area up here. I'm going to make a an aperture science sign. Maybe what I should do is talk to Pancake Legend about doing an edge lit aperture science sign and put it up above the stencil storage area. Yeah. And I really had better go to lunch before Peter starts sticking things in places. All right. I better go. Put a vent over the oven. Yeah, so Charles says put a vent over the oven. That is definitely my plan. There is going to be an extraction system. Whatever the oven is, it is definitely going to be vented outside of this. There is going to be one of those big silver conduit things that goes down onto it and sucks the air up out of the room. So I don't want the fumes from the oven remaining in this room. They need to be sucked up and out and vented. And yeah, that is definitely going to be the case no matter where it is. And that is how I had it set up when I had the reflow oven in the back in that door back there. You can't quite see it. The door back behind me in that room. I had the fume hood over it with the external ventilation, and that worked really well. I'm going to definitely do that same thing again. So with that, I shall bid you adieu, and I hope you have a outside the box is a transparent vent. So you can see the fumes. You can't really see the fumes much, particularly when they're in fast motion. They just vanish. It's invisible. there is a little bit of smoke that comes off, but the smoke just gets dispersed by the suction. Rocket says bye from Antarctica. What? Hang on. Rockets, are you actually literally in Antarctica? Because if you are, that would be friggin' awesome. Dodgy says going to be hard to maintain positive pressure. Yes, I know. This is aspirational. Yeah, it's not, I am not building a high terror level factory here. This is just ways to make it less bad than my current setup. So now it is time to test the macro button again and see if this works. Let's test the ending. Hopefully it'll, what this should do is fade out my camera, cut to the end video, and it should cut my audio. We shall see. Edge light the big acrylic wall. Pancake legend, the legend of edge lit acrylic. We are definitely going to have to talk about some plans. Yes. All right, Chris, good to know that you got your bathroom done. I'm going to go have lunch. You should go and have lunch or breakfast or dinner, and I will talk to you really soon. Thanks for coming. See ya.